Yeah, today is 25th virtual facilitation practice. So we are happy to have Elise with us. It's been a while that we invited her, but she's so busy doing so many things, but we finally could make it. So let me put in the chat. Today will be a session led by Elise and David. So they'll be managing everything. We'll be participants, Carolina and I. And yeah, we are excited to have you, Elise. So thank you for making the time to be here. And please introduce yourself, introduce David, and let us know what is coming.
All right, welcome everybody. So David and I are hosts of an international large-scale experiment. It's called the New Rules for Work experiment. And our goal, our hope, was that today we would actually get to run the experiment in its honest-to-goodness, scientifically baptized form. Unfortunately, the scientific gods of ethics approval have not finished doing their dance on our surveys. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to run through as close as we can to what the experience is meant to be like, because this experiment is an experiment to see how the location of a meeting and the technology we use impacts our results. And as we are working in collaboration with the scientific community. So we're working with a team of academic advisors and a team of facilitation advisors to design a 1-hour session, a brainstorming session, and then run this session online, in person, and in hybrid settings, and compare, what do we see? What's different in these different settings? To do that, our goal, because with science, you want as many examples as possible so that your data is not all just sort of anecdotes and that one time I did the one thing and therefore it must be true, right? We would love to see this experiment run 500 times in 4 months, which means as people who are here today, if you go through this experience, we would love to invite you to become people who then run this experiment with your own communities, with your own worlds. So we're going to transition into experiment mode. And you'll notice that unlike many times when we work as facilitators, it's going to be pretty scripted. It's going to be very tight. We're trying to balance the difference between what we might do as an experienced facilitator in a room of people with what can be repeatable in an experimental framework and something that many, many people can do basically the same, right? So the way I facilitate and the way David facilitates, and I'm pretty sure the way the rest of you facilitate is not quite the same. So we're looking to try and normalize that as much as possible. So David, other framing that we should add before we get into talking about actually playing with the experiment.
There's some chat going on in the side here. If they were to do it in their own native languages, if they were to take this, I'm presuming, I don't know that we've talked about this, but yes, as long as the participants speak the language you're speaking, which I assume would be the case.
Unfortunately, no, because it has to be conducted in English, and here's why.
Oh, I take it back.
In the recordings are then all analyzed by researchers, and they need to be able to run the same coding technologies and all of the same tools on the data and be able to compare things. So one of our questions is, which environment helps people come up with the most creative ideas? And we need the ideas across the experiment sets to be things that our expert reviewers can actually compare. So they're like, everything's in English. Now you're welcome to talk to each other in small groups in whatever language works best for you. But in terms of the written results, it's all English. What other questions?
we gather demo on the meeting participants?
Data?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, why don't we go ahead and kick off by gathering some data on the meeting participants in the way that we will do it during the experiment. Now, in the online experiment, we'll actually have 2 Zoom links. We'll have sort of a welcome area that isn't recorded like this one. This one's being recorded, but in the real setup, there'll be a welcome area. Well, you'll come in and you'll be invited using the script to fill out a brief survey. So David, do you want to pop that survey in the chat for them?
There we go.
All right, so go ahead and take a look at that now. And I'm going to read start of our script. So welcome to this experiment. I'm going to get you started with a check-in form and initial surveys. We're going to need your permission to record the experiment. Here's the consent form. It's in that survey link. So go ahead and click that survey link. Explaining the recording process and how the recordings will be used by researchers. Please take a moment to read through the information and let me know if you have any questions. Then, if you consent to participate in the recorded session, please sign the form. Now, in this case, you don't have to sign it because you just fill it out. So go ahead and walk through those settings. And then when you get to that last instruction, let us know by renaming yourself. And if any questions come up as you're working through it, let us know. Fun. All right, and I will know we're ready to go when everybody's worked their way through that survey form. Do let us know if you have any questions and follow the final instruction.
So Elise, we use the same name we added to the form.
Yep.
Change our name.
Yep. That's exactly it.
So we change our name here. That's what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
That's right. That's right. So in the real experiment, once you see that mac and cheese magpie, awesome. What I would do is I would send mac and cheese magpie a private link to the Zoom session where the recording is on and where we're getting ready to do the experiment for reals. So somebody asked if we collect data on the participants. The answer is yes, but it's anonymized data. We have data on Chilaquiles, Cat, and Lemon Pie Hawk, and Taco Tiger, but not so much on Jen Kurtz. Blueberry Bobcat, sweet. Taco Tiger, what questions do you have?
Good morning, everyone. I just got a question. We're supposed to put the first name with the first letter, like T, and also last name as T. Is that right? Were those the instructions, or it could be?
They were the instructions. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Age data, yes. Age data. So in terms of the surveys, and these are the ones that are being finalized, we're collecting age, we're collecting job position. So where are they in the hierarchy of their job, / retired, independent, all of those things. We're collecting psychological safety profiles. We're collecting network preferences, which is a fairly new data set, which is about when you work in teams of people, are you the kind of person who helps challenge and strengthen a single team's ideas, or are you the kind of person who helps bridge different people together and create networks of ideas? We're also collecting data about how you feel about meetings and how often you run meetings and things like that. Mabel, would you like to participate? And if so, would you like to change your name? And if you have any questions, let us know.
You mean Mabel?
Mabel, yes, I do.
I've already changed my name, and that's Mabel.
Oh, okay. All right. Is that okay? Great. All right. David, anything else we need to do?
It looks like all the names are changed. So I think we're good.
Cool. So when we schedule the entirety of the experiment, there's some time for getting people through the survey up front. And then the next thing we invite people to do as they're waiting for everybody to get ready for the survey is to join Stormz. So let's go ahead and give you a link to that. Let's go ahead and click that right now. And I'm gonna just show you what you should be seeing. So in Stormz, when you click it, you will find an opportunity to join as a guest. And as you do so, I want you to put in your new name. So I should see Taco Tiger and Mabel and Donut Donkey and all of my friends join Stormz. When you do, you will find yourself on a page where we're asking, what makes outer space cool? And this is just a practice, so there's nothing you can do that's wrong here. An opportunity to make sure you're ready to use Stormz. So go ahead and add your own idea about why outer space is cool. Give it a title. And if you can, after you've done that, give it a picture. And you can give it a picture by doing this little attachment button here, which will allow you to search or otherwise give a picture. So go ahead and add a card about why outer space is cool. And if you're running into any challenges accessing Stormz, please let us know.
Where do you get the picture again?
There is a little, after you add a card, go ahead and click on it again. So for example, if I wanted to update imagination, there is a little add attachment paperclip at the bottom of it. Make it really big so you can see it right there. Ooh, look at that nebula. Wow. Look at how infinitely awesome that is. And when you've successfully added a card and you're good on Stormz, give me a thumbs up. Excellent, excellent. Okay, excellent. So while we are making sure that everybody's ready to go, you can start preparing by getting the card in Stormz. Ice Cream Agana, I'll show you again how to get that, how to get an image on there. And once your card is in, you can also start thinking about the challenge we're going to face today. So let's say I've got beach. And I want to add a picture. There's a little ice cream iguana. You see this right here? A little add attachment. That is, oh, you're muted. I can't hear you.
I don't have here in this computer photos or attachment.
Let me show you something even cooler. When you do this, go to Unsplash
Okay.
and you can search,
Uh-huh.
and it will eventually return. Or you're able to link. And if you can't get to it, that's okay. It's not required. That's just how it happens as we go through.
Okay.
All right. So this is our prep. We make sure everybody's got the survey, everybody's renamed, and that we've got Stormz all set up. Hello, Alexandre. You need to become some combination of food plus animal. Por favor. S'il vous plaît. All right. And with that, and let's make sure we have the Stormz link for Alexandre one more time. And once we are officially ready, excellent. Okay, and then we are going to come to some places later where we need to do additional recording. So there's a lot, we're gonna do it. The session itself, the experiment itself is 60 minutes long. And that 60 minutes is gonna fly because we originally wanted 2 hours to do this brain creative problem solving session. And we turned out there was no way we could get experiment teams to book that much time. So we condensed it to the fastest possible run of this experiment that we could. It's going to feel very quick. So to make it possible for us to get through all of it, there are a lot of breakout activities. From a research perspective, what happens in the breakout activities is very interesting to us. So what we would love to have is, let's see, how many people do we have? 4 of you volunteer to record locally so that that recording can become part of the research data. And when we get into the small group work, you will be recording what happens in the small group work so that we can compare small group work versus large group work. Do I have 4 volunteers? And we don't actually need to do this today, but I would like to go through the motions of making sure we collect the 4 volunteers and rename them. I see Chilaquile's cat. Okay. So what do you think, Dave? Put a star on their names so that they're easier to add to the small groups later?
Yeah, if you would like to volunteer for the recording, if you would just add an asterisk to your name, that would be helpful.
At the front.
Yes, please.
Sorry, Cherry Cheetah, what are we volunteering for?
Oh, that's me. You're volunteering to pretend that you're going to record the breakout rooms. So it's creating so that we have a recording of both what happens when we're in plenary and what's happening in breakouts for the analysis. So I have Chilaquile's cat is a volunteer, and we need 4.
I see Pizza Pug, Avocado Brownie.
Lemon Pie Hawk, that is 4. Fabulous. All right. So Dave, are we set? Have we made our way through all of the required prep things?
Yes. Yeah, we're ready. We're ready to go with the 60 minutes.
Okay.
The official begin.
All right. So should we officially beginning at this moment, what I would do is I would say all of you with the asterisks and whatnot, I would say start recording now, and you would record to your local machine. Not required at the moment. But what I will tell Dave to do is, Dave, please start a 60-minute timer. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the official start of our experiment. We're here to see if we can identify 2 or 3 really great responses to today's challenge. It's a moonshot, something big and bold that we might do about it in just 60 minutes. We'll be doing a series of small group activities to spark our thinking. When the idea is that it's going to be engaging and fun and everyone should be involved throughout. By the end of our time, we hope to have written responses that are original, high quality, and that you find personally compelling. Meeting Moonshot. First though, in the privacy of your own mind, please consider the answer to the following question. It's a question with no right or wrong answer, and whatever your answer is, that's the right answer. Here's the question. For you at the moment, using AI in workshops to gain instant access to the world's knowledge, while at the same time maintaining a sense of contribution and ownership among the participants, is like what? Some example answers might include, it's like a massive tangled knot of string, or it's like hitting a brick wall, or perhaps it's like a black hole. Whatever your individual answer is fine. I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about this on your own. For you at this moment, the challenge is like what? And now we're going to break you into groups of 2 or 3 to compare your answers. What's different about them? You'll have 3.5 minutes in these groups. And at the end, I'll invite a few people to say out loud what they've come up with. Okay. Are we ready, Dave?
Ready.
Let's open those breakout rooms.
I'll put it in the chat.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
And here comes everybody. Welcome back, welcome back. So I would love to learn a little bit more about what you shared. So in the chat, for you, this challenge is like what? This challenge for you is like what? And if you'd like, you can type it in the chat or let me know that if you'd like to share out loud. I would love to hear a couple of voices. Oh, brave souls. Who would like to share a little bit about what this challenge is like for them?
I can share if you want what we talked about
Please.
in the room. So I was with Pizza Pug and Mac and Cheese Magpie. And Pizza Pug said, fly me goop. And I said, turbo boosting productivity. And Mac and Cheese said, eventually embracing something that's inevitable, that's going to come and rock our world. And we kind of just talked a little bit about how it is something that's coming. There will be resistance. We will have to embrace it. And eventually we will find the positive.
Thank
With
you.
all the bumps in the road of how to get there, I think.
Very cool. And I'm seeing in the chat all kinds of variations, slime and Morpheus and champagne. Taco Tiger, last one.
Yeah, basically I was thinking about when, we unwrap a present, because we don't know what's gonna be AI answer. I mean, it could be any way, it could go, but the other thing is we have to process information real quick. And also there's a challenge that we should get get like a synthesis of the whole text and just put it into a few words so that we could use it responsible, and also trying to be very careful what we're doing, because that's sometimes it could go online. So it's challenging. I mean, for me, it's a very important and interesting thing to happen, not just to get new tools and use them, but for a good.
Thank you. Right on. It is absolutely a an interesting challenge, and one that with no obvious right answers at the moment. So the question that we have for you now is that when the challenge is like that, when it's like, you know what? When it is like Morpheus and presence and all of those things, what would you like to have happen? And this time, you're going to do your brainstorming in Stormz. So I hope you have that window open still. And if you do, the screen has changed. So you should be seeing a pink screen that says, when using AI in workshops is like that, what might you like to have happen? We're going to give you 3 minutes to think about this on your own. Drawing on all the opinions and knowledge and thoughts about the challenge that you've heard. Maybe there's a metaphor that resonated particularly with you. Here's the question. What would you like to have happen? We've opened the Stormz board, and you're here to capture as many different ideas as you can in 3 minutes. Now, nothing is off limits. So I want you to go big, go silly, go sideways, go for lots and lots and lots of ideas. And just a note, you are only going to see your own ideas during this step. So while you're doing that, we'll play 3 minutes of music while you work on that. Any questions? Go. Okay. Finish typing any last idea, and it's time to move on. I'm going to advance Stormz Let's see what we've got. Wow, look at all of these ideas. When the challenge is like that, here is what you would like to have happen. There's a lot going on here, so we better talk about it. So again, we're going to break into smaller groups and share and compare our ideas. I want you to consider what's different about them. What else might be possible? This time you have 3-minute conversations with one other person. As you talk, you're free to add ideas, build on the ones that are here during your discussion, continue to work this question. To keep things simple, we're going to let Zoom create pairs for us. This means there's a chance, and we're going to run 3 rounds. You're going to have 3 conversations with one other person about these ideas. Because Zoom is going to create the rooms for us, there's a chance you will talk to the same person twice. If that's great, if that happens, go for it. Just go deeper. We'll also, because we're an uneven number, have one group of 3. Each breakout lasts 3 minutes. At the end of 3 minutes, please let the software bring you back and send you back out again. So don't click the return button. We're going to let the Zoom handle all of that for us. So again, in your conversation, short conversation, when the challenge is like that, what would you like to have happen? Any questions about what's about to happen? It's going to be fast. It's going to be a little frenetic. Go.
So it's going to be one room with 3.
Okay, that's round 1. So hang tight for just a couple seconds while Donut Donkey runs the magic to find you your next conversational partner. Same prompt. When you consider our challenge, what is it you would like to have happen? Compare your ideas, build on them, find the best ones available. Off we go. Wow, all right, welcome back. That was 2.
Ripped away from our beautiful conversation.
Well, maybe you'll get lucky and find yourself right back there again, because the gods of randomness are about to find you your 3rd conversational partner. Off you go.
So in one of the expeditions, somebody actually came up with a name with that phenomenon when you come back into a room. And, some people don't.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, welcome back. It looks like we're all here. Okay. So now that we all have some ideas for a moonshot, it's time to go deeper. Consider, what might you suggest if you could offer a single fabulous moonshot idea? Maybe you would build on one of these ideas, or maybe you'd combine ideas into something brand new. So for this next step, you'll be working in a small group to draft one great moonshot idea that's more original, higher quality, and more likely to be something that people would personally invest time or energy into making happen. So first, on your own, silently consider this question. How might you improve on the ideas you've discussed? A moonshot is the one big effort you take to get to the moon. It's what they did in the 60s to put a man on the moon. Huge amounts of effort. One idea, off we go. In a moment, you'll be joining a new group with a few other people. While there, you'll have 13 minutes to build out one great idea that you can present to the rest of the group. Take just a few minutes in your group to decide on an idea, because you'll need the time to fill in the details. To do so, and I'll show you in Stormz what it's going to look like. You're going to add a new card in the one new card for your group in your group's original high quality compelling response. And after you add your card, and I'm just going to do a test and then I'll delete it, you can click on it to give it some details. Explain your idea. What does that work like? Add some info. What does it look like? What does it feel like? And if you have time, add an attachment or a picture. When we come back, you will be presenting your ideas to the rest of the group. So please assign a spokesperson. The instructions are in the chat. Are there any questions? All right, 13 minutes. Go create a great idea. Oh my.
Oh, we're back.
Oh, you're back. Welcome, welcome back. So now let's hear from each of the groups as each spokesperson shares their group's moonshot idea. We'd love you to add to the chat or write down somewhere when you hear something you love about what you just heard. So I'm going to share my screen to keep it simple. And we are going to start with this one. Who is the spokesperson and who would like to tell us about it? You have 60 seconds to share your idea.
Okay, that's our group. And basically all we thought about works like a charm, pen and paper. Those were the first thoughts. Then it looks like simple in terms that we are getting good ideas on text. And also we put Google version 2.0, put in the point that technology keeps going. AI is pretty new and Google is old now. By now, Google is becoming old and we're getting more precise answers when we're prompting something or trying to find something. And feels like we decided as a team that opens a wide range of possibilities or opportunities that we can, is that the word capitalized, used in a good manner. The other one, we feel like it's like a personal advisor because we get answers online. We just go real quick, we get it, and then we get the message, and then we got a pretty good idea of our doubts that we have. They are cleared now. And at the end, also, it was mentioned like a collaboration because we get the best out of us, basically.
All right, thank you very much. That's our first group. Next, human transformation and evolution. Who would like to, who's the spokesperson for this group?
Just a question for you, Cherry Cheetah.
Yes.
Do we have to evaluate? I didn't hear that.
You will get to. I've made an error, so you don't
okay.
get to evaluate quite yet, but we'll do those all at once. So right now we're just listening.
Okay.
Yep. So human transformation, who's this spokesperson?
I think we forgot to assign a spokesperson, but
No, it was you because it was you, Pizza Puck.
okay. Okay, it looks like it didn't record everything that we wrote because it seems like we just got it, feels like, but following what was said from the first group, it's, yeah, AI would be used to generate questions. It's brilliant for that. As facilitators, we want to have infinite amount of questions. So that's brilliant. And so our thinking was along the line, AI is never going to replace humanity or humans. It's definitely going to disrupt us. And in a sense, I was saying how it's going to force humanity to look at our humanity as a whole. And
Yes.
so what we want to do with AI is to be able to generate more of the deep connection, human connection. And so as you can see here, we says it feels like warm, fuzzy, big hug, and it expresses the situation. I forgot what it looks like. If any of my colleagues,
It looks like a big heart.
oh yes, it looks like a heart. And what was the first one again? And it's like I forget, I don't know how it didn't get captured, but
All right.
yeah, so that's basically what we want to do is, oh yeah, and it's it looks like a compassionate human being. So.
Lovely. Okay, so that's time. Go ahead and capture some notes about what you love about that, and let's move on. Next up, human connectedness. Who's the spokesperson for this group?
They assigned me, but I didn't assign myself. Okay. Yeah, we were talking about this human connectiveness and how, so the participants like humans, maybe Pizza Parrot can talk more about that. But I think it's like when we are always listening, we are always there. And I just feel that when we have self-awareness and also when we can face ourselves as humans and have the real sense of who we are and what we are doing here in a big sense of this, we can just like use AI but we will always be having this human connectedness. Pizza, please help me.
I would just add the use of AI in a chatbot format feels not like a moonshot, a future state of a self-aware or sentient AI or silicon intelligence that can participate like human would be a moonshot.
Thank you. All right. What do you love about that? Consider it. And then final presentation, AI Tube. Who is the presenter for this one?
Okay, I was nominated to present this one. I worked with, goodness, I can't see the participant's name. I know it's Monica and Blueberry, mac and cheese and blueberry. First of all, before I say anything about that, I'm just super enjoying the fact that we're all now talking about what it is to be human, and we've all been fighting wars for so long. This may be a great thing, right? To eventually get to the point that we are all humans and we should unite. So we came up with this idea, and I think we're all talking about the same thing about sharing, because it's scary for a lot of people. I'm not sure what it is and how it's going to change us. So I can see us all kind of coming together and trying to work it out together, which is great. Monica came up with the idea of, well, the name AI Tube, because I said I can really see like a platform that it's a go-to where people are just using their positive or constructive experiences in AI. I'd thought about it as being maybe broken down into industry categories. So because AI is going to impact differently depending on the industry. So if there's a place where you can go and what you're only going to see is constructive experiences. But I really like the other group saying that it's more about questions. But at this moment in time, I was thinking more about answers for people who are trying to just start navigating using AI. We said it might look like Netflix, where you've got a catalog of experiences of leveraging AI, and it would feel like a supportive community. That's where this humanness, the best of humanity, and a space for, like Monica said, accessing collective wisdom. So it's really, the idea of just sharing the greatness of this to eliminate the fear. Okay.
Fabulous. So now we are ready. We've got ideas. We've got cards on the board. It's time to rate these ideas and find our top 2 moonshots, the ideas that we believe best address this challenge. We're going to rate each idea on 3 criteria, and you've seen them as I've been watching here. So as you open up any card, go ahead and click it, and you'll see ratings. The top one is originality. So does this response demonstrate novelty, imagination, and thinking outside the box? As you move this, you will see your options, and there's full details on exactly what each one means. The second criteria is
oh, I'm sorry.
You can
Do we
rate your
our
own, and you rate all 4 of them. The second is quality. Is it complete and effective? And the final one is personally compelling. How likely would you be to personally invest your time, energy, or resources into bringing that to life? We're going to take just a few minutes to rate these ideas, and then we will see what our final moonshot is. And do let us know if you have any questions. And everyone should be rating every idea. You have 1 more minute. Thirty seconds.
We are supposed to do this for all 4, right?
Correct.
Got it.
Ten. All right. Let's see how we did. Hopefully you got to rate most of those, if not all of them. Moving to the next step, let's see the answers to our ratings. And it looks to me like human transformation came in at 10.3 out of 15. Human connectedness has a 12. We got a 10.3, and we're just taking the top averages. Here's an 11.1 and an 11.5. So 11.5 and 12 are our final answers. So let's go ahead and move this to our top 2 responses. Top 2 responses. And the 12. And with that, we have our success, our 2 moonshot ideas for this experiment. So, congratulations, you have in 60 minutes or less run through a complex challenge, work together as a group, and come up with 2 ideas. Now, as a final thing, I would love for you to close our time by putting into the chat, what did you find fun and exciting about this whole experience? But don't press return. Just put in the chat, what was fun and exciting about this experience? And then you will hit return when I say go. So go ahead and type it in and let's give them a countdown.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Go. All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Now it's time for the final step in today's experiment. Thinking about the meeting we just experienced, please complete this fictitious post-meeting survey. End recording. And scene, we are done. That's it. That's the completion of that particular experiment, but 2 minutes to go. So with that, now we can step out of being scripted and running or dancing through this so quickly, and we can talk about it. And I am seeing some fun ideas in here. Got to see Stormz, diverse people. Excellent. Who has questions or thoughts that they're ready to share as facilitators looking at this from an experimental perspective? Taco Tiger.
Yeah, I think that nothing is written up already. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that are coming out. And for me, this is a good exercise to try to understand AI facilitator. I'm pretty new on this profession, and I really like it. So there's nothing written, and there's a lot of opportunities that we can capitalize out of them.
Thank you. Cool. Mabel.
Yes, for me, there was I'm French speaking, so there were some words I didn't understand. So the moonshot was one of them. Mm-hmm. That's not a concept that I'm familiar with. Some of the way the questions were framed, I had a hard time understanding what we were trying to get to. That was one thing. And then the other thing would be interesting to do it with a group of people who are focused on the task and have an emotional attachment to the quality of the task. I think for me at this point, it was fun. I love doing it. I mean, I love the use of the Stormz. I loved meeting people, but I just thought it would be interesting when you're doing it in a real work environment and people are attached to the quality of the outcome, what it might be like. We didn't know each other. So if you do it in an existing group where there's already group dynamics, it might be interesting again. So there was, but I enjoyed doing it for sure.
I think this would be probably a good time to provide some context about where the experiment is coming from, because completely well taken, all of those things, right? So this experiment was inspired by an academic study that came out in May. The papers were published in May 2003. And the media picked up the headlines and said, well, it's official. Zoom kills creativity. You can't do innovation online, therefore businesses need to get everybody back into the office. Now, as virtual facilitators, we know that that's not necessarily true. You can do amazing things online. So David, Donut Donkey, and I started looking at that study. And tell them a little bit about the methodology, Donut Donkey.
Yeah, so they took a large engineering organization, European engineering organization, and they essentially paired people off. Some of the pairs were in the same room, other pairs were online, and they were given a prompt before they paired people off. This was a 3-hour experiment where we just went through 60 minutes. They did 3 hours. It was a 1-hour lecture on creativity. It was a 1-hour lecture on the cover program they were using to disguise this research survey, and then they paired people off in the same room or together on Zoom. So essentially one-on-one on Zoom. And they were given a prompt when they were paired off to come up with as many creative uses for either Frisbees or bubble wrap as possible. And so depending on the length of the list and to some degree, the creativity of the ideas, that's how they decided which setting, the in-person or Zoom, was better for creativity. And we just said, that's not how you do it.
No.
There's no stakes. You actually put people to sleep by lecturing at them for 2 hours before then asking them to be active in a meeting. So that is the original methodology for the study that got so much attention just about a year ago today.
So we approached the academic community and the people who actually conducted that study, and we said, hey, sending people into a room with a Google Doc saying, come up with as many ideas as you can in 5 minutes is not facilitation. That is not how you unlock creativity. Yell at each other and type as fast as you can is not the path. Can we do a study where we're looking at something that has been designed in a way that looks a little bit more like what we might do with clients in a workshop? It's a little bit more like something we would be proud to do. Maybe not entirely, because most of us would like more time than 60 minutes to what we just did, but how can we do something that's closer to being real? So some of the things, Mabel, that you mentioned, like the wording and things like that, that's definitely cultural for sure. And we've got some things to look at there. But, real teams with real stakes and all of that, like trying to balance getting as close to real as possible while also having anonymity and having open data that everybody can investigate together. So we're inviting research teams to look at these videos from around the world and do their own studies based on them. Means we can't actually do conversations that might include any corporate secrets, right? It has to be something that's publicly safe enough that the data can be open. So our real challenge questions are things about how do we unleash unheard voices in the places where decisions are made? Or what should we do with all the empty office buildings to help save the planet? Things that maybe you care about, kind of like today was meant to be something maybe you care about, but isn't sensitive or private. Mac and cheese.
I just had some of the same sentiments that Mabel did in terms of not the terminology per se, though that's a good point, but just the wording of some of the questions to be, I don't know, but I felt the same thing, like exactly what were we trying to answer? So maybe just tweaking those just a little bit.
And are you talking about questions like, for me, this challenge is like what? Yeah.
That one, I think all of the questions, or like,
okay.
I felt the same way. It's all of the questions, all of the questions.
So a little background on this one. This particular process was designed by a facilitator who is an expert in a methodology called clean language. And clean language uses these really funky questions to invoke metaphorical thinking. So when they said, this challenge is like what for me? It's like a brick wall. It's like mud. It's like, so it's actually designed to do that. Whether it works well for everybody is another experimental lens, but that is intentional. Mabel.
Well, so based on what you just said, I would suggest start the question is this challenge is like, because challenge was not there and it was not, I was trying to, are we looking at AI as like something, or like I was not clear as to what I was trying to get to, that being the empty word, being the word we were looking for. So it was more on the clarity of the question. I mean, I like word that you want to get an analogy, but it was just the word for me was missing. Like, and then eventually I heard you use the word challenge and I said, oh, that we were looking for that. So yeah, so just
cool. Okay. Super helpful. Thank you.
I think I would recommend to validate the questions with non-English participants like all ourselves, where English is not our first language, you know, so to make sure, and it's also the time, you know, because like for me personally, to be able to, first of all, read the question, understand it, make sure that I really think that I understand it correctly, it takes me more time. And the speed there of 3 minutes, if English is not your first language, like for me, it's a challenge. It's a real challenge. So, and also, how do we create human connectedness? Because creativity will come out of human connectedness. And for me, I have to say, this is one of my concerns. And I really feel that as coaches and as facilitators, our role is really to be able to be these guardians of human connectedness. And that's my worry. Like, even like a process like this, it goes so fast, so fast, so fast, so fast. I didn't feel that there was room for human connectedness. So for me, that's a big lesson of how can we be these guardians of creating these links where we can be at our best. Because our brains, the best creative ideas, all the research demonstrated that the most creative ideas come when the brain is actually resting. That's when the most creative ideas happen. So how do we create this space and not feeling rushed, So for me, that's the questions to you. And I hope this research will also provide this time so that it's not something that we're rushed 3 minutes and we need to brainstorm, because I'm not sure that the most creative ideas will be coming out with a process that is very, very rushed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think I think one of the things we'll be looking at, be looking at relative creativity, but I think from a practitioner perspective, none of us actually expect there to be really great ideas, given how fast this is. What we're looking at primarily is what are some of the differences we can detect between people who are doing it online versus people who are in the room. And we are tracking things like, do you speak English as a first language and stuff like that, which will help us highlight some of the areas where, you know, if you've got people from mixed backgrounds, you really need to do this differently because it just doesn't work the same, right? So I appreciate that. Pizza Pug.
I love the discussion this is bringing up for all of us, and Chocolate Mousse Panda, I totally agree with you and echo. I just want to add some things. I love these nicknames anyway. It's really adorable. So just a few things. Since we were on the topic of AI can help recreate some questions, you know, in a 5-year-old language. All right, we say, you know, you can prompt it to say, explain this to a 5-year-old, and then we can use those questions. For me, I think there's avocado brownie also saying it's heavy on the instructions for, and the instruction part could, I guess, be tweaked in the sense of, for me, what helps is having a visual, like just putting it in the chat, whatever you just said, and simplifying it in the 5-year-old language, you know, in the instructions. Because when we're in the breakout rooms, I'm like, oh, what are we talking about again? I don't know what happens when we get whisked away in the breakout rooms. Like my brain just goes blank or something, and then I forget what we're doing. So I think that's part of it, with the including the simplifying the language, and then there's the cultural aspect of it. I go back to what Chocolate Mousse Panda said about the human connection. You know, as facilitators, I wholeheartedly agree that we are, you know, the guardians and the facilitators to help generate human connection. I think ultimately that's what we're here for in the end, you know, in the grand scheme of things. So fun, how do we have an icebreaker that is fun, you know, to kind of prime the creative part of it. And studies show that laughing, as simple as laughing or a smile even, because some people have a hard time even smiling. So, and it could just be something as simple as that with a fun little icebreaker might help to ease people into the creative aspect part. And I'm excited for what kind of questions, challenges that you just mentioned, Cherry Cheetah, about what you're going to be doing with the experiment. So I loved it. I haven't done facilitation in years. I do masterminds and stuff like that, but I'm really feeling like I need to get back into doing workshops. And, thank you for helping me get back into this space.
Thanks, Pizza Pug / Pasheka. Anna, I see you have your hand up as well.
Yes, thanks. I support everything that's been said here entirely. I think people have really picked up on what I was also seeing. I think the one point that I wanted to make was, although these little nicknames are adorable, to me it just blocks any further communication that I want to have with people. I really want to continue the conversation with people, connect with people outside of here. I think LinkedIn is just a perfect network for that. As we're all in this sphere of work, really, in virtual facilitation or not. But I think it's so important. This human connectivity for me was completely gone the moment I had to call myself Chilakila's cat, or to call everybody else. I don't know who they are. I don't know how to look for them after this session. It's gone. So although it was really cute, I would have just held it for a moment, and then gone back to it, or not done it at all. I think I'm not sure what the purpose of it really was.
I can tell you.
Okay, yeah, it would be great.
So this is, we talked about the original study and then wanting to bring more practitioner techniques, what we know works well, into this. So so we can judge based on what actually happens at work, how technology in place build into this, or impact it. And so in order to do that, we have to try and get our study seen and on a certain level from a research standards standpoint as other studies that are out there. So we have an academic advisory board, and part of what we're doing, and part of the we have to, of course, with our academic advisors and ethical and moral standards, we have to abide by them in order to get published in these journals where these other studies are. So in order to do that, in order to have recordings, in order to gather research and conduct it the right way, we have to anonymize the data. So we can't have anybody's names attached to be able to say in the this person did this or that, and then attach that to the outcomes. We can't have any identifiable information. So I love the idea about continuing the conversation, and maybe we can figure out a way to do that either in if people want to share their contact info, or post in some non-recorded space. But the reason for actually changing the names is because we have to anonymize the behavioral and the outcome.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thanks for.
And I appreciate you pointing out the impact that it has on the work.
Yeah,
itself.
I mean, it makes sense just because, I mean, if you look at in-person events or online events, when we're constantly working out what works, what doesn't, that's the difference. When you're in person, you know who the person is, you make that connection. So it absolutely makes sense. And just very, very quickly, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
Yeah, the liberating structures of, for example, the 1, 2, 4 all, which we did little versions of, is having that connection. So I understand that for purposes of the study, you need the anonymity, but yeah, in terms of what we're all looking for, which is the connectiveness, you don't get it. So as soon as the recording stops, everybody puts their names back on that. I think that's what would work.
And that's a great, actually, segue to something I was going to add here. And then I'm super excited to see what Pizza Parrot has to say. But if you choose to help run this experiment, there are 2 processes. There's this one, which has this metaphorical moonshot thing. And then there's another one that's based on design thinking that runs in Mural, or other things in person. There is this sort of like bracketing, right? There's you come to the experiment and you go through some survey stuff and you become an anonymous experiment participant. And then you enter into a 60-minute experimental experience, which we are hoping to be closer to what we might wish to do as facilitators, but also something that corporate people will actually schedule in times. So not just groups of facilitators who do this for fun, but like, you know, sales reps and IT execs and all kinds of folks will actually put it on their calendar, and we collect the data, and then that ends. So there's a post survey and that ends, which if you choose to run something like this with people, you know, that's a great opportunity to talk about what just happened and to continue to connect, to add in, say, hey, as a facilitator, our opportunity to do these things, to really unleash creativity, to really go deep, might look like this. I know when Donut Donkey runs these, they're what, 3 hours? Like if you were going to design this to do it the way that you would want to do it with real people.
Yeah, I always want more time.
Yeah,
of course. Right. But again, this is that balance of how do we get this thing done with as many reps as possible. And so, you know, there's healthy friction with our academic advisors and just the practicality of what Elise said, of getting this done as many times as possible. And hopefully this becomes a stepping stone for us to do more, to play with more elements and aspects of creative facilitation, like some of the things that you're talking about, to go deeper.
And to enter a conversation with your client, you know, like, hey,
right,
this is probably better than what you're doing on your own, and let's talk about how you'd really level it up. Pizza Parrot.
Just to reinforce, I did drop something in the chat. So from the experimentation point of view, from the research findings point of view, and on the topic that I think we're hearing a lot about here, human connectedness. If we all start with the proposition that a healthy human connection does spawn greater creativity, and if this is an experiment and research project to specifically assess creative output, then I think part of the control discussion to perhaps, if not already had with the advisory council, is about the difference of just physically being in a room with people does create, by presence, greater human control. Therefore, in the virtual construct, there does need to be some investment in the agenda to creating connection to balance that control mechanism. And I think structurally, the experiment right now has a flaw in that space.
All right, thank you. Yeah, well taken. A couple of the other variables that probably have similar impacts. Some of the teams will be working with our intact teams that have been working together for a long time. Some of the teams know how to use the technology really well. Some of them don't. Some of them are used to brainstorming and sharing ideas in a very safe environment. Some of them work in environments where you get fired if you make a wrong decision. So it's a messy, complex experiment. Hypothesis-wise, we have also some challenges around, while you're online, you use something like Stormz. What was the idea and how was it rated is beautifully easy to report. When you're in the room, that's a little more challenging. So, you know, how will that be rated by people who are outside of it, right? Like in the moment, if I'm together in the room and we do a thing, I might feel great about it. But can I prove it to the executive who's supposed to receive that idea in the same way I could if I use Stormz? You know, so there's some tensions that we'll be playing around with there too. But yeah, well taken, thank you. You can. Somebody mentions that you can use Miro in a face-to-face meeting. Absolutely. And you can use Stormz and you can use any of the online things in face-to-face meetings. Any last questions about the experiment? Lots of great feedback. Thank you.
I just want to say kudos. You are choosing to tackle a very important yet challenging question, to do so in something that can be a peer-reviewed format. So good on you.
Thank you.
I think for me, Elise, one of the things I realized, and that's where I met Fernando and I met Hector, and in 2018, when at the time they started to introduce us to virtual facilitation. And my big learning in 2018, and thank you, Fernando and Hector, to this, is that in face-to-face, often it's like if we're film producers. But when you're in virtual facilitation, you become the producers of Netflix series, you know? So for me, that was such an eye-opener, where before we would organize these 2-day retreats, you know, face-to-face. But you guys challenge us to say, no, you can't do this face-to-face when you're online. So how can you be able to redo your design in much smaller workshops? And for me, I found it absolutely fascinating, the impact of transforming the work that I was doing before, which was more longer meetings, versus to transfer it in small meetings. And now, even after the pandemic, I don't go back to these 2-day meetings. The power of having smaller meetings over time that allows the brain to rest and to go from divergence to convergence. Because between the time that you have divergence and convergence, I'm not seeing it properly, I think I have a big French accent, there is a there's a period, huh? There's the
groan
period.
zone. Everybody loves the groan zone.
Yeah. So this one is very, very important to be able to manage properly. So for me, there's something also in this experiment where I don't think that how we design face-to-face meetings is the same than how we design workshops when it's done virtually, Elise. So
you know what?
For me, that's a question to ask, because if the research will say we're doing this meeting face-to-face, and then we're doing the same thing virtually, we know as facilitators and as coaches that that's not going to work. We need to be able to change our designs to be able to have impactful meetings.
What would you think about that, Donut Donkey? How would you reply to that one? Because you're right. I mean, there's, you know, obviously this is, there's the world of what we would do as facilitators. Should we be hired to get this result? And then there's the research. All the existing meeting science is based on what teams do, corporate teams do, without any facilitation, or on experiments run with students. And most of those experiments are 5 minutes to 10 minutes long. And that's the science on meetings. Yeah. So.
Well, I would say, I want to take it back to Tim for his giving us kudos, because I do think we're doing something that's never been done before. I think we're really pushing the boundaries of what is being researched here and combining these. And all of the things that you've said about, oh, it would be great for more time, or wording, or like all of these things, yeah, we know, honestly, you know, we know that we should be doing these things. But and I've never been involved in any kind of academic research before, and I've always kind of poo-poo. That's how this whole thing started. I took a I don't know what you call it.
A pot shot at Melanie.
I took a pot shot. I called it all trash. I said, this is all a joke. Like, you can't be serious that you're getting these results from this methodology. But now I'm on the other side of it, and I'm learning all the things you have to do and all the compromises that you have to make in order to go through and do a research project. So here we are, right? There's how are we going to get 500 people to do this? People aren't going to give us 3 hours of their time to do something that's not. Look at all the job losses, right? We're not going to walk into an organization and they're going to say, oh yeah, Dave and Elise, here's everybody you need for 3 hours and do the workshop that you want to do, right? So we're balancing these competing agendas, and so this is a first step. And so I think we're winding down here, and maybe we make the call to participate here. It's not perfect. I know that you're going to have some issues with it, but in an effort to move this whole thing forward, you can visit, and I'll put it in here, the newrulesforwork.com, and it explains what we're doing. There's a sign-up form if you want to be involved as a facilitator. You get to facilitate a meeting that you didn't design, and all the joys and frustrations and critiques that come with that. You can also sign up to be a participant. You're still eligible. We haven't tainted you with the topic. I think Elise explained some of the different challenge topics that we're using for the meeting there. So you can still participate. And we need more and more people to run this. We're trying to get up to 500. So go and take a look and see if you, clients, colleagues would be interested in doing this, because this is going to get us closer to answering some of those other questions that you added about the human connection and what is AI going to do? How does that play into the whole thing? Actually using it, not just thinking about how we're going to use it. So if this is all intriguing to you, we'd ask that you register. We'll email you. We'll follow up with you. Elise
we'll train you.
We'll train you. Yeah.
I was going to say, we're doing a roadshow, so we can do some of this in person. And one of the invitations that we have for people that we work with as clients is if they want to run this multiple times. Let's say they want to run some online groups, some in-person groups, some hybrid groups, because they're a big company and they're trying to decide what to do about their return to the office strategy, right? They're trying to decide what to do with those empty conference rooms. We've partnered with Logitech. Logitech will lend us some cool cameras that make hybrid meetings work really well. We're partnering with Stormz to help run things. We're partnering with Mural. That company can invite facilitators to come run the experiment multiple times with their people. And if they want their own private view of how, if there's any difference in whether their teams say, hey, I enjoyed that, I hated that, you know, they can get their own report, and there's a fee associated with that. If you choose to do something like that with your clients, you keep half the fee. So it's a nice little conversation starter. If you've been working with a client and they're wrestling with some of those things, they're interested in data, you can run a scientific study with them. They get some data, you're in front of the client facilitating something, and then you absolutely take the opportunity, we will, after the official, okay, done, scene, we're done with the experiment, to turn off the recording and have the conversation about how to do meetings well, about how to really unleash creativity, about how to really connect. You know, what you're seeing happening with AI that they need to start thinking about as they talk about creativity in the next couple years. So that's an opportunity to consider, which helps us, helps you, helps the client. Woo! Yay, winning. Visheka, did you still have a question or comment?
Thank you, Elise. It was more of a comment. I think it was about the workshops being long. I think Natalie was mentioning it in a series like Netflix, which is a great idea. And last year I was in a training with ACT, is called Applied Compassion Training with Stanford. And we did 3 retreats throughout the 11 months. And then we had, you know, mini mentor sessions and all that stuff. And I didn't think I would be able to do like a whole weekend, 2.5 days of online, you know, but it was possible. And it was really, the heart connection was there. And I think it just basically boils down to the context. It's like, what's the context? What's the, you know, what are those prompts that are generating the discussions that were really profound to help us, you know, stay. But really it's difficult to do a 2.5 hours. So I just wanted to acknowledge that it's possible and it's being done. And at the same time, it is challenging, but kudos for sure. Thank you for taking this on. And I'm excited to see where this goes.
Excellent. So we have just the last few minutes. I think maybe it's time for takeaways. Format, we all have our favorite format. Here's a really simple one, if that's okay. Anything else, Donut Donkey, before we
Good to go. Thank you.
wrap it up? In the chat or out loud, your choice. Learned, liked, wonder. From your time today, what did you learn? What did you like? And what do you wonder about still? Again, free to type, free to talk. You're up to you. Yeah. Wonderful. All right, Fernando, your show. You're welcome to close it out however you'd like.
Carolina's the boss.
We want to, thank you so much, Elise and David, for this session. So it's a very important experiment, and I'm wondering about the results as well, as someone put there. And so thank you so much for being here with us, and everybody to participate and to go to Stormz and have fun on Stormz, and just put our minds there and have this connection, human connection. This is so great. So thank you, Elise and David, for hosting.
Yeah, thank you so much, David and Elise. Thank you, everyone, to come.
Thanks for having us.
Thank
Alexander,
you for
please
playing.
Thanks for
drop in the
that.
chat the link for Stormz.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.